Well, let's take Mubarak trial first. In my opinion, Mubarak is not really a serious trial. It's just like a show trial. I don't think there is a serious evidence against former President Mubarak till now. It consumed a lot of time, and the media is covering it, while covering it. People like to watch the former president being in the court and behind the bar. I wish that he could have a fair trial, and I wish that we as an Egyptian get to know if Mubarak is guilty or not. And that's a big question, and I don't think that we will get to know this question. The process itself is not really, and the evidence is not presented in a good way. And I think when, after 2.5 years almost now, that they are saying, listen, we have new evidence and we are going to submit new evidence, that's a waste of time. I think Mubarak will not be accused at the end of the day. And I think one of the demands of the revolution that to reform the judiciary system, nothing has been done till now. And that's one of the key issues that we need to do it. And this is, we're going into somehow have a major effect on Egypt's future, if we're going to really have real justice or not. And up till now, there is no real justice in Egypt. And it has to do with the involvement of the Ministry of Interior, I mean the police department, of course, the general prosecutor, the judiciary system itself at large, a lot of other factors.
Mr. Nasir, what about the trial of the Muslim Brotherhood leaders? How do you think that, would you think that they would be found guilty of killing the protesters?
Well, I cannot really answer your question, but the way I'm seeing Egypt, how they are trying to charge them, and more or less all of them has been charged with the same issue, I don't see there is also fair trial is taking place. Whatever mistakes we have been doing with Mubarak and his regime, we're still applying the same mistakes on other people. Let me give you an example, and I can see on the TV now, Hazem Abu Ismail. Hazem Abu Ismail was guilty, and his people attacked Al-Wab party like 8 months ago or something like that. Why they didn't catch him at that time, and why they didn't present him to court at that time? Similar with a lot of other evidence. Why we kept a blind eye all of this time, and then eventually after Morsi is out and we try to apply justice and charge those people. So the system, the way we are dealing with this kind of trial in Egypt is not done in a proper way. My own feeling, both of the regimes are guilty, but if I talk from justice perspective, I don't see that justice is applied on both cases.
Mr. Mohammed Nasir, the political analyst, thank you very much for joining us this evening on the Daily Debate. Now, Mr. Nawwara, during the killing of the protesters during 25th of January revolution, there were two main points of view. One, the first one was that the Mubarak regime was responsible, the Ministry of Interior was responsible for killing all those protesters, almost 850, if not even more. And then there was another point of view saying that it was actually the Muslim Brotherhood and the thuggery acts were really responsible for the murder of those protesters. Do you think that the evidence being presented and submitted for the retrial of Mubarak could actually work for Mubarak's favor and against the Muslim Brotherhood, or vice versa? Do you think the evidence could work one way or the other?
Really, I can't really make that judgment because we have not yet been allowed to see the evidence. But I think that during January Revolution, there was a number of different actors possibly responsible, and I think this came in the judges, the first judgment in a way, that, for example, when there were some attacks on police stations. So when there are attacks on a police station and there is exchange of fire, so the situation is chaotic, is difficult to say, for example, that a president or even a minister of interiors was responsible to, for giving orders, because when you're attacked personally, then things get chaotic, and then you have the human response of responding back. As for the camel battle, as we call it, I think again there was definitely attack from some thugs who were in a way commissioned, to put it this way, or pushed to attack the protesters by ex-NDP officials and by officials in the state. So again, not necessarily Mubarak, but possibly some other officials. It's difficult to think that Mubarak would give an order saying go and hire thugs. I don't think that it works this way. However, the political will to kill protesters is definitely something at least implicitly or directly given by a president. That the level of how harsh the state or the police or other possibly secret security apparatuses in the state, the way they react, the way they act with protesters. Yes, in a way, the president would at least be, as the judge found him, would at least be knowingly allowing this to happen, while he had the capacity to stop it. So I think in the first judgment, I think that's what the judge said, that Mubarak at least had the capacity or had the obligation to protect protesters, and he failed to meet that obligation. In the case of Morsi, there is a different scenario, because we remember on the protests near the presidential palace after the constitutional decrees or the unconstitutional decrees, and specifically on December 5th. On that day, in fact, there are many clues which we can take from that day, because on that day we saw a kind of militias attacking protesters, putting down the tents, attacking the tents, beating some of the protesters, beating even some of the women. There was a women demonstration, small women demonstration in front of Heliopolis club, and we saw some of Morsi aides pushing around these protesters. And there are pictures with Morsi, with these particular persons inside the presidential palace. And also Morsi came out on television saying that the thugs have admitted to receiving cash for attacking or for demonstrating. But then we had Mustafa Khater, who was the prosecutor seeing the case. He denied this. He said that, in fact, the evidence points out that members of the Freedom and Justice Party delivered badly beaten people or suspects to the police, saying that they were thugs. But then it turned out that these so-called thugs, they were, among them was an ambassador or previous ex-ambassador of Egypt, communication engineers, and so that. And then he said that these so-called suspects, they were in fact badly beaten and tortured by, and they accused that the torturers were from the Muslim Brotherhood, from Freedom and Justice Party. In the same time, there were cases of people being tortured even inside the presidential palace. And for Morsi to come out and say, and talk of confessions, while the district attorney or the prosecutor of Heliopolis says that this in fact didn't happen, points out to some link between Morsi and the torturers. So I think in this particular case, there is perhaps evidence that Morsi is directly linked, at least to torture of some of these torture victims. Also, on the morning of December 5th, there were some calls from some of the leaders of Muslim Brotherhood organization asking for their members to come out in masses and protect what they called legitimacy. So again, this is a clear case of incitement, because when you push when you push your members to attack an existing protest. That's basically what you're asking for. You're actually sending people for violence. So there are different, perhaps different, there are differences between both cases.
Yes. Mr. Nawwara, now after the 25th of January revolution, the Egyptians, the public, was really very subjective towards the retrial of former President Mubarak regarding the killing of the protesters, and the public opinion was really much against the former president. And now, after the June 30th revolution, a lot of Egyptians are really subjective towards the Muslim Brotherhood and the leaders of the Brotherhood regarding torturing the protesters outside of the presidential Ittihadiyya palace, and also killing some of the protesters at least near the headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood in Muqattam. How big of a role do you think the public opinion is going to play regarding the retrial of former President Mubarak and the trial of the Brotherhood leaders?
I think you're right in saying that at the end of the day, a trial, although it's a legal issue, it's a judiciary issue, it should be taken only viewed with the law and with looking at the evidence at hand. But again, a trial is never too far from the public mood, and sure, definitely the public mood immediately after January revolution was pressing very much for Mubarak's trial because of the large number of martyrs and victims of who were killed or injured during January revolution. Today, I think you're probably right that the public has become much easier on Mubarak, and now they are much tougher on the Brotherhood. However, I think that we really need to differentiate between the political punishment and the legal punishment. The legal punishment should really go with the law, should go with the evidence. We cannot indict somebody just because we don't like him. I think we need to have both trials separate, the political trial or the public opinion trial, which at the end will go in history, in the history books and so on, and the legal trial, which I think should really stick to the law and to the evidence. However, there are certain articles in the old constitution which would have allowed for Mubarak to be tried for political corruption. There was actually an Article 85 in the old constitution which was governing at the time of Mubarak's reign, which allowed for a special tribunal. That was Article 85. It allowed for a special tribunal if the president was found in breach of the constitution. In the same way, also, if we look at the Muslim Brothers organization now, the Muslim Brothers organization, we all know that it's a secret underground organization. It does not have a license of any kind. Yes, Freedom and Justice Party, it does have a party's license. Some of the businesses they run, they have their licenses, but the organization itself is using all of these licenses as facade, because we know at the end of the day that there is a Muslim Brothers organization which is controlling the political party. It's controlling whatever syndicates they are working in. It's controlling these businesses which are owned perhaps by front people. So there is a massive political and economic